laws have been a big topic over the past few years since it's been implemented. The lockout laws enforce that pubs and nightclubs refuse entry up to 1:30 a.m. This means once it hits 1:30 a.m. and you decide to leave the venue, you will no longer be allowed back in. And this applies to all clubs in Sydney, CBD and the King's Cross area, apart from the Star City Casino. Lockout laws also enforce no sale of alcohol after 3 a.m, in which the clubs close. These laws have been enforced to reduce the number of alcohol-fueled violence that spill out into the streets. This decrease in violence is likely due to the inability to purchase excessive amounts of alcohol and drink until early hours of the morning. For example, the longer a venue is open, the more alcohol is available. The more alcohol available, the more problems arise. Alcohol affects the brain by inducing chemical changes. Professor McMurran found that when drunk, our body's warning systems is altered, and thus not efficient. This change can increase the chances of being in a dangerous situation, such as misinterpreting social cues and other individuals' behaviour, which could potentially lead to a confrontation. If a confrontation emerges, the brain is unable to effectively evaluate the situation, thus not examining the potential long-term and short-term consequences.
Thomas Kelly, Daniel Christie, I'm sure everyone has heard these names before. One-punch victims who lost their life due to the violence in the nightlife of Sydney. These boys were the spark that lit up the introduction of lockout laws. Sure, violence has decreased within the Sydney CBD entertainment and King's Cross precinct, but at what cost? These lockout laws have cost many people their jobs and livelihoods. A city outing with your friends has become like a chore, having to plan the little details to ensure your friends make it on time before the lockout. The options have become limited, with 16 licensed businesses having closed, including well-known clubs and bars such as Soho, the Flinders and Trademark, just to name a few. The government is portraying us, as individuals in society, as not being smart enough to look after ourselves, urban researchers state. These laws have affected innocent people's livelihood and their freedom, all because of a few aggressive people. According to the Bureau of Crime Statistics and Research, foot traffic of patrons in the areas of lockout laws have declined by 40%. All the laws have done is push people to other areas, even more so to their local venues away from the city entirely. If you have less people crowding into a certain area, there is of course less chance of an incident occurring. No one can say the lockout laws haven't done their job, as they have driven away patrons, which in turn has lowered the percentage of incidents that have occurred. But they have killed Sydney's life and economy, which has led to less people travelling and attending venues in the city. The lockout laws are also affecting tourism, as Sydney's nightlife has always been a must-see in most people's travel agendas when visiting Australia. The live music scene is being heavily affected, as many up-and-coming artists are looking elsewhere to try and make it into the music industry. With government and community support, we can remove the lockout laws, build back our economy, and Sydney's life back up.
Economy is important, but is it really more important than a life? Money is replaceable, but a life isn't. You think the trauma disappears once the bruises are gone? You are mistaken. Many victims of alcohol-fueled violence suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and many other psychological illnesses as a result, and these illnesses can last a lifetime. At the time, the psychological consequences are far more debilitating than the physical ones. The victims are not only the ones who suffer due to alcohol-fueled violence. In the horrific crimes of Thomas Kelly, the aftermath of his death caused immense devastation among his family. In particular, Kelly's brother, who was 14 at the time of the incident. Earlier this year, Kelly's brother took his own life. The amount of grief his family has endured is unimaginable. Kelly's death was preventable. These lockout laws have been implemented to stop any more horrific tragedies happening to other families just like the Kellys. Thomas Kelly's family worked hard to voice their concerns for the youth of today. In doing so, they created the Thomas Kelly Youth Foundation. This foundation has promoted the need to do something about the alcohol-fueled violence on the streets of Sydney, and fortunately succeeding in doing so. St John's Ambulance have teamed up with the Thomas Kelly Youth Foundation, creating safe spaces around the city on Friday and Saturday nights until early hours of the morning and even on New Year's Eve. These safe spaces provide somewhere safe young people can rest their feet, get rehydrated. Damn it, that sounded really... Rest their feet. I haven't finished yet, but what's the next part?
Damn it. You're so funny when you do this.
Thomas Kelly's family worked hard to voice their concerns for the youth of today. In doing so, they created the Thomas Kelly Youth Foundation. This foundation has promoted the need to do something about the alcohol-fueled violence on the streets of Sydney, and fortunately succeeding in doing so. St John's Ambulance have also teamed up with the Thomas Kelly Youth Foundation, creating safe spaces around the city on Friday and Saturday nights, until early hours of the morning and even on New Year's Eve. These safe spaces provide somewhere safe young people can rest their feet, get rehydrated, charge their phones, and get first aid, find transport, or wait for friends. The people that volunteer at Safe Space offer any medical care that is needed from effects of drug or alcohol. Volunteers walk around the area in teams and provide assistance to people that are in need. For example, someone who is intoxicated and on their own, or someone who is lost and needs help finding their friends, or handing out bottles of water to ensure everyone gets home safely. The Thomas Kelly Safe Spaces are an amazing idea. The Thomas Kelly Safe Spaces contribute to the pursuit and safety of the community. The participation of community and funding by the New South Wales Government of the City of Sydney Council contributes to the pursuit of health and safety in reorientating health services. It also represents participation of community representation. Thomas Kelly's family worked hard to voice their concerns for the youth of today. In doing so, they created the Thomas Kelly Youth Foundation. This foundation has promoted the need to do something about the alcohol-fueled violence on the streets of Sydney, and fortunately succeeding in doing so. St John's Ambulance have also teamed up with the Thomas Kelly Youth Foundation, creating safe spaces around the city on Friday and Saturday nights, until early hours of the morning and even on New Year's Eve. These safe spaces provide somewhere safe young people can rest their feet, get rehydrated, charge their phones, and get first aid, find transport, or wait for friends. The people that volunteer at Safe Space offer any medical care that is needed from effects of drug or alcohol. Volunteers walk around the area in teams and provide assistance to people that are in need. For example, someone who is intoxicated and on their own, or someone who is lost and needs help finding their friends, or handing out bottles of water to ensure everyone gets home safely. The Thomas Kelly Safe Spaces are an amazing idea. The Thomas Kelly Safe Spaces contribute to the pursuit and safety of the community. The participation of community and funding by the New South Wales Government of the City of Sydney Council contributes to the pursuit of health and safety in reorientating health services. It also represents participation of community representation.
Violence fueled by alcohol isn't just something that can be fixed. The government should look at controlling the violence rather than lockout laws. These laws are reducing the amount of patrons that attend venues in those areas. However, patrons have just ventured out to other suburbs, showing that the government is just pushing the violence onto other areas that may not be equipped to handle this. Since the lockout laws, there have been an increase of violent incidents surrounding the Star Casino, which is exempt from the lockout laws, from 3.5 incidents to 6.3 incidents per month, according to the Bureau of Crime Statistics and Research. Many politicians and researchers were aware that by introducing these lockout laws, we would be pushing the problem onto other suburbs. New South Wales Assistant Commissioner admitted to the ABC that the lockout laws would just move the crowd and violence elsewhere. If the government want to strive for a safer Sydney as a whole, then they need to develop strategies that aim to control the violence. Due to the lockout laws, there have been an increased number of patrons in Newtown. They have implemented strategies to try and prevent assaults. Newtown brought in new taxi ranks to ensure adequate transport, a quick and safe way to leave the area. They have their bars manned by trained professionals to handle aggression and abuse that could arise from alcohol, homophobia or transphobia. They have also implemented no new patrons after 3 a.m. Through these, there have not been a rise in assaults. It has remained relatively the same since the lockout laws. We can put strategies in place to take back Sydney and take control of the violence. New York, Vancouver, Amsterdam all have strategies in place to combat alcohol-fueled violence that work without implementing lockout laws to their patrons. Sydney should implement strategies such as 24-hour public transport, more visible policing in nightlife precincts, introducing later dining and retail hours, staggering venue closing times, or just by even pushing back the lockout time to 3 a.m. like Newtown have done.
As a result of the lockout laws, doctors at St Vincent's Hospital have had reduced life-threatening alcohol-related injuries. As of now, hospital resources are not being wasted on acts of stupidity and recklessness that could have been prevented. Previously, the emergency room of St Vincent's on a weekend was packed, full of alcohol-related injuries, causing long waits to get to bed. make it incredibly inconvenient and frustrating for those that were ill due to other causes. Now, with lower alcohol-related injuries, the demand for hospital beds and ambulances are not as high and can be used to help others in need. Not to mention a more comfortable environment for the hospital staff that work there. First of all, they have crazy hours, and on top of it, enough people that are difficult to deal with. It has been reported that 96% of ambulance staff have been threatened or verbally abused by drunken members of the public, and 50% have been injured and 54% feel unsafe. These statistics are from a study that was conducted in the UK. These are photos of 19-year-old David Mitchell, a victim of alcohol-fueled violence. In an article in the Melbourne Herald Sun, 19-year-old David Mitchell speaks out about his incident of being a one-punch victim. Mitchell states, "When you have your mum tell you the story once you've somewhat recovered, it's a bit of a tearjerker. People are losing their lives over a drink being spilled, breathing someone's oxygen. Over nothing," he said. "I've been through that shit. It's got to stop."
To conclude, we must realise that the government has implemented a band-aid fix on Sydney. The government need to advocate towards controlling the situation with the implementation strategies rather than remaining with the lockout laws. The impact caused from the lockout laws has had an immense effect on those in the community, both economically and professionally. The use of media, particularly social media, has been a strong communication tool for those protesting the unfairness of lockout laws. Social media and the media should be used as a key strategy in the promotion of safe alcohol consumption and the effects of violence. Raising the community's awareness is important, as seen through Danny Green introducing the Coward Punch campaign, which was also supported by the One Punch campaign. The government should be focusing on creating a safe and supportive environment for the whole community, rather than affecting the livelihood of many for the few that choose to act violently when alcohol is involved. The government can achieve better results if they were to mediate with the local community, speaking to those who are affected or see the issues firsthand to gain better knowledge of the strategies that will help improve the violence with Sydney, more so than the lockout laws. No, we can't stop every assault from happening, but our lives shouldn't be lived through the lens of a negative risk. We all need to come together, develop and implement strategies to help save Sydney from being closed due to the lockout laws. September 2014, trademark closed. October 2014, back room closed. January 2015, the Flinders closed. June 2015, Soho closed. June 2015, Exchange Hotel closed. July 2015, Goldfish closed. August 2015, Hugo's Lounge closed. December 2015, The Passage closed. December 2015, Jimmy Link's closed. February 2016, Bar Century closed. 2016, Sydney closed. Keep Sydney open. Remove the lockout laws.